Let's start with something most men don't want to hear. When a woman loses interest, she rarely tells you. She doesn't sit you down and explain why the warmth faded, why the laughter feels forced, why her eyes no longer linger when you speak. Instead, she starts sending signals that sound like silence. At first, you notice little things, texts that take longer to arrive, plans that keep being postponed, the feeling that she's there, but not really there. And because you care, you start doing what caring men do. You try harder. You give more, talk more, plan more. But every extra effort only widens the gap. It's a cruel paradox. The more you chase clarity, the further it runs. Not because she wants to hurt you, but because honesty often hides behind behavior. Her actions begin to say what her lips never will. I'm not sure I see you the same way anymore. This video isn't about blame. It's about seeing clearly, finally. Because the most painful confusion in love doesn't come from rejection. It comes from misreading disinterest as hope. And once you understand how women show it, subtly, quietly, predictably, you stop taking it personally. You stop chasing ghosts. You stop bargaining for effort that should have been freely given. In this journey, you'll discover 7 unmistakable signs that reveal when she's no longer emotionally invested. They may sting at first, but each truth will pull you closer to peace, because clarity, though painful, is the beginning of self-respect. You'll learn why silence speaks louder than promises, why maybe next week often means never, why her effort, her presence, and her attention tell you more than her words ever could. And most importantly, you'll learn when to stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "Why am I staying where I'm not valued?" This isn't a lesson in coldness. It's a lesson in awareness, in the quiet strength of walking away without resentment. You'll see how recognizing these signs doesn't make you cynical. It makes you free. Because once you understand the language of disinterest, you'll never again beg for love that isn't being offered. You'll move differently, calm, certain, untouchable. So if you've ever felt the ache of mixed signals, if you've ever tried to hold on to someone who was already halfway gone, stay until the end. By the time we finish, you won't just understand why she drifted, you'll understand why you deserve peace more than her attention. The language of absence. Disinterest never screams, it whispers. It doesn't arrive with a loud announcement or a cruel confession. It arrives quietly, through the rhythm of her days. You start noticing the small things first, the delayed replies, the postponed plans, the way her energy drifts somewhere else even when she's near. You tell yourself she's busy, overwhelmed, distracted, but deep down, you already know. People always make time for what truly matters to them. When she keeps finding time for everything else except you, she isn't too busy. She's simply being honest without saying a word. Time is the truest mirror of value. It reflects where someone's heart truly is. You can't fake effort for long. You can't pretend enthusiasm through silence. The truth reveals itself through absence, through the missed calls that never come back, through the constant maybe next week that quietly becomes never. The hardest part is not hearing her silence. It's refusing to accept what it means. There's a moment in every man's life when he must choose between waiting and waking up. Waiting feeds the illusion. Waking up ends it. Hope can be dangerous when it blinds you to reality. It tells you stories that make sense only to your loneliness. It convinces you that patience will somehow earn you love, that if you just hold on longer, she'll finally see your worth. But love isn't a reward for endurance. It's a reflection of mutual desire. When you start respecting your own time, everything changes. You stop begging for space in places that don't want you. You stop romanticizing distance as mystery. You start seeing absence for what it is, an answer. And it's not a cruel one. It's simply the truth setting you free. The truth hurts, yes, but uncertainty kills. It eats away at your peace, your focus, your confidence. Every time you chase someone who keeps you waiting, you trade self-respect for false hope. And the longer you stay blind to what's obvious, the deeper you lose yourself in a story that was never yours to begin with. Walking away doesn't mean bitterness. It means clarity. It means you finally recognize yourself as someone who doesn't need to be convinced to be chosen. The moment you stop chasing someone's attention is the moment you start attracting your own power back. Let her go, not to prove a point, but to remember your worth. Because silence isn't an invitation to chase, it's a mirror reflecting where love no longer lives. The absence you feel isn't punishment, it's direction, it's life whispering, not here. And once you've learned to read silence, the next lesson arrives, understanding contradiction. Because sometimes it's not her absence that confuses you, it's her mixed signals. The warmth of her words, the distance of her actions, the compliments that sound sincere but never lead anywhere. You start to wonder, does she mean what she says, or does she say what she doesn't mean? What she does reveals what she truly means. Many women avoid direct rejection, not out of cruelty, but out of comfort. They don't want to hurt feelings, invite confrontation, or feel guilty. So instead of saying, "I'm not interested," they sprinkle kindness over disinterest. They tell you you're wonderful, but never make space for you in their life. They respond just enough to keep things alive, but never enough to make them real. It feels tender, even hopeful, but in truth, it's just emotional anesthesia. It softens the blow while keeping you stuck. The danger isn't in her words, it's in how you choose to hear them. Empty affection has a way of wrapping itself in softness. It sounds caring, it sounds gentle, and that's exactly what makes it powerful. Because while you're busy feeling comforted, you're also being contained. You stay, waiting for something that was never promised, because it feels like connection. But a mature man learns to read the invisible energy behind words. He doesn't get hypnotized by praise. He observes the rhythm, effort, consistency, sincerity. When those don't align, he doesn't argue. He simply understands. Clinging to words is easier than confronting behavior. It's easier to replay her compliments than to notice how she cancels plans. Easier to remember what she said than to accept what she does. But every time you choose comfort over truth, you weaken your own trust in yourself. You begin to doubt your instincts, the very compass that's meant to protect you. Every false hope costs you a piece of your self-respect. Reality stings, but illusion suffocates. It keeps you orbiting around someone who was never standing still with you. You start bending reality to match your hope instead of aligning your hope with reality. That's not love. That's dependency dressed as devotion. And so, the art of seeing clearly becomes the art of quiet observation. When a woman's interest is real, it moves in patterns. Consistent effort, mutual energy, shared presence. You won't have to guess. You won't need to chase. It will simply flow. But when her words sparkle while her actions fade, that's not confusion. That's clarity in disguise. The man who watches without reacting learns faster than the man who argues for meaning. Silence, when grounded in awareness, isn't weakness. It's strength. It's the decision to see, not to persuade. To witness the truth instead of wrestling with it. In the end, it's not about punishing her for inconsistency. It's about freeing yourself from it. Because once you start believing behavior over speech, you stop being deceived, not by her, but by your own hope. Once you stop believing in words that don't match actions, another truth begins to surface: effort. Because beyond silence and contradiction, there lies a more subtle message: how much energy she's willing to invest. And here's the reality most men struggle to accept: low effort is not confusion, it's a decision. You'll know it when you see it. One-word replies, hours between texts, vague answers that go nowhere. You reach out, she responds, but only just enough to keep the thread alive. You suggest plans, she says, maybe. You ask when she's free, she says, I'll let you know. Days pass, weeks blur. You convince yourself she's busy, cautious, shy. But none of that changes the truth. When someone truly wants to connect, you won't need to decode mixed signals. Effort doesn't hide, it reveals. You can't teach enthusiasm. You can't inspire genuine interest by giving more of yourself. When it's there, you feel it. In the warmth of her tone, in her willingness to show up, in how easily she finds time for you. When it's not, every gesture feels heavy, forced, uncertain. And the moment you start accepting crumbs, you silently tell her and yourself that your value can be bargained down, that you'll settle for less as long as it looks like something. Waiting becomes a quiet form of self-betrayal when you're the only one doing it. Patience is noble when both people are walking toward each other. But when you're the only one moving, it becomes a slow erosion of your spirit. Every time you excuse her indifference, you normalize disrespect. You call it loyalty, but it's really avoidance. Avoiding the pain of admitting that she simply doesn't care enough. The hardest goodbye isn't to her, it's to the fantasy you built around her potential. Yet leaving early is not giving up. It's protecting what's sacred, your peace, your focus, your self-worth. The man who learns when to stop investing becomes lighter, calmer, and far more magnetic, because the moment you withdraw from what drains you, you make room for what values you. There is a quiet standard that defines real strength. You don't chase energy that doesn't return. You don't overextend for attention that feels reluctant. You don't confuse effort with begging. Instead, you match consistency. You respond to clarity. You walk with those who walk beside you, not ahead of them, not behind. Walking away isn't coldness. It's alignment. It's what happens when your actions finally agree with your awareness. You stop reacting emotionally and start acting intentionally. You stop hoping for her to change and start trusting your own perception. The truth is, most men lose themselves not because they cared too much, but because they forgot to care in the right direction. Effort reveals everything. So if she gives you the bare minimum, take it as the message it is. Not an invitation to try harder, but a reminder to try elsewhere. Once you understand the truth about effort, another pattern becomes impossible to ignore: presence. Because effort may show in what she does, but presence shows in how she does it. You can fake words, you can even fake effort for a while, but you can't fake presence. It's either there or it's not. Attention is love in its most visible form. You can feel it in the way someone looks at you, listens to you, or simply shows up fully in the moment. When a woman is genuinely drawn to you, her focus rests where you are. The room fades. Her attention becomes quiet, steady, intentional. But when her eyes start to wander more than her heart, she's already gone. You may be sitting across from her, but her mind is somewhere else. Checking messages, scrolling, glancing at the door. If the phone in her hand matters more than your words, take the hint. It's not about the screen, it's about the disconnect. The modern world has taught people to mistake physical presence for emotional connection. But being near each other means nothing if you're not with each other. The man who accepts half focus teaches her that his time doesn't deserve respect, that his presence can be divided, that he'll settle for fragments of her attention as long as it looks like affection. Real attraction doesn't multitask. It surrenders attention. When two people connect on a deeper level, everything else quiets down. The outside noise fades, and what remains is a kind of stillness. Two minds meeting, two energies aligned. That stillness is rare, but unmistakable. When it's missing, no amount of talking or touching can replace it. You can feel when someone's body is near, but their spirit has already left. The truth is, you can't compete with distraction. You can't outshine a phone, a crowd, or the comfort of indifference. But you can withdraw with grace. You can protect your dignity without creating drama. You can step back without resentment, simply because you've recognized what's missing. Presence is not something you demand, it's something you inspire. And if it's not freely given, it's never real. When presence fades, the relationship has already ended. Only the performance continues. You can keep showing up, pretending not to notice the distance, but deep down, you'll feel the truth every time she laughs without meaning it, every time she nods while thinking of something else. The silence between words grows heavier. The moments feel longer. That's not confusion. That's closure in disguise. So don't chase what's already half gone. Step back. Let the silence speak for you. When someone's attention drifts, it's not an invitation to try harder. It's a signal to stand taller. Because the man who honors his presence never begs for someone else's. He knows that attention given without heart isn't love, it's charity. And love, real love, cannot survive where presence has died. After presence fades, what follows is distance, quiet, polite, carefully disguised. It's the phase where she's still around, but something invisible has shifted. You can feel it in how she starts to choose the crowd over closeness, laughter over depth, moments with everyone else instead of moments with you. And while her words might still sound friendly, her actions are whispering something truer. Distance is her way of saying what words never will. Some women won't tell you directly that they're no longer emotionally there. Instead, they'll start weaving space between you, soft, almost unnoticeable at first. They'll suggest group plans instead of dinner for two. They'll invite friends along, change the setting, keep things light. Because the truth is, crowds dilute connection. In a crowd, she doesn't have to meet your eyes for too long. She doesn't have to feel the weight of sincerity or the closeness that once felt safe. Shared moments alone create a kind of vulnerability she no longer wants. Being one-on-one requires honesty, emotional presence, openness, connection. But avoidance is often the gentlest form of honesty. She's not cruel, she's cautious. Her distance is her answer. She's telling you without words that the bond has already thinned. The tragedy is that many men don't hear the message beneath the laughter. They see politeness as possibility when it's really closure. Then comes the trap, the loop of false hope. You tell yourself she's shy, or that she just needs time. Maybe she's guarded, still healing, or scared to get close. Those stories protect your ego, but they also keep you trapped in waiting. The reality is simpler and harder. She's not afraid of connection, she's avoiding yours. The harder you try to bridge the distance, the colder it becomes, because effort cannot revive attraction that's already gone. Real chemistry seeks closeness. It leans in. It wants shared silence, private moments, unspoken connection. Disinterest, on the other hand, avoids it. It hides behind company, busyness, and distractions. The more you chase what's pulling away, the smaller you feel. Every attempt to prove your worth only confirms to her that you doubt it yourself. The truth is painful but liberating. Avoidance isn't rejection in disguise. It is rejection, simply delivered gently. And once you see it that way, you can stop personalizing it. Her distance isn't an attack on your value, it's a reflection of her truth. The kindest thing you can do for both of you is to accept it. Step back, not with resentment, but with respect, for her honesty and for your own boundaries. Because closeness cannot be forced, and love cannot be convinced. When someone pulls away, let them. You don't lose by releasing what doesn't want to stay. You lose by holding on to what's already gone. Sometimes distance isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It's life quietly removing what's no longer aligned with you. And the moment you stop chasing what's leaving, you create space for what's meant to arrive. And when distance finally becomes undeniable, when her warmth has turned to polite indifference, there's only one thing left to face: the pattern. Because love, interest, attention, none of it hides for long. It always leaves traces. And when those traces disappear, what remains is not confusion, but truth. A single excuse can lie. Patterns never do. This is where most men lose themselves. They cling to isolated moments of tenderness, fragments of what once was, and build a whole story around them. They tell themselves, she used to care, she smiled that one time, she texted first once. But one exception doesn't erase the pattern. The pattern is what defines reality. And if that pattern is built on distance, inconsistency, and hesitation, then that is the relationship, not the rare moments that break it. Interest always leaves footprints. Small gestures, consistent effort, warmth in the tone, eagerness in the eyes. You feel it in her presence, not in her promises. When those footprints vanish, no messages, no attention, no energy, there's nothing left to interpret. It's not a mystery. It's a mirror showing you what's already clear. Clarity is the reward for letting go of denial, because denial is comforting. It lets you rewrite the story to protect your heart. You analyze, justify, defend, hoping that logic can fix emotional truth. But the more you explain away reality, the more it slips from you. You don't need to study her words anymore. You need to study the pattern. Patterns don't lie. They reveal whether love is alive or fading. And once you see it for what it is, something powerful happens. You reclaim control. You can't control attraction. You can't make someone feel something they don't. But you can control your reaction. You can decide that your peace is worth more than confusion. You can choose to walk away from situations that drain you, no matter how intoxicating they once felt. When you stop chasing, you shift from being tested to being chosen. You stop performing for approval and start living with quiet certainty. The right people don't need convincing. They recognize your presence and match it. That's the unspoken balance of genuine connection. Mutual energy, mutual effort, mutual respect. Anything less than that isn't love, it's dependency in disguise. Freedom begins the moment you stop negotiating for love. You don't have to earn what should come freely. You don't have to chase what keeps running. And you don't have to prove that you're enough for someone who already decided not to see it. Real love doesn't make you question your worth, it confirms it. So stop analyzing exceptions, start honoring patterns, stop waiting for her to change, and start noticing how the truth has already spoken, quietly, consistently, and without apology. Because once you see the pattern clearly, you no longer ask what went wrong. You simply accept that you've outgrown the illusion, and that acceptance, that calm, grounded acceptance, is where your real power begins. If you've made it this far, you already did something most men never do. You face the truth. And that truth, though heavy at first, is what sets you free. Because once you stop chasing what's fading, you start attracting what's real. Every ending carries a quiet gift, clarity, peace, and a stronger version of you. If this message spoke to you, remember, awareness is only the first step. Transformation comes from practice. So subscribe to Kara's Mind, where every video helps you understand yourself deeper, read people better, and move through relationships with calm power and emotional intelligence. Watch the next video. We'll go even further into the psychology of attraction, the meaning of silence, and how to rebuild confidence after rejection. You don't need her validation anymore. You just need truth, growth, and your own quiet strength.